Rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, if you do the roll call, please.
Mr. Future.
Here.
I forgot my list, I'm sorry. Mr.
Go. Here.
Kowal.
Here.
Mr. Moreau.
Here.
Mr. Ruckert.
Here.
Mrs. Skazin.
Here.
Mr. Sibby.
Here.
Mr. Western.
Here.
Mayor Borough.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance and any of the media in attendance tonight. One quick thing before we get to Mr. Vesio. If everyone could please speak up a little bit, including myself, so that Randy can pick up everything on the recorder. He's been having some trouble, especially with this half of the room here because we're so far away. So if everyone could try to do that, I will also make an effort to do that as well. And with that, Mr. Vesio.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to welcome the new members of council. My name is Bill Besho. I manage the police and non-uniform pension fund, and I come out every quarter to update you on basically what's going on in the economy very briefly, and then give you an update on the cash flows and performance for both funds. I gave you a booklet today. If you turn to tab A in the second page, I'm only going to go over a couple of things. The second page, or actually the third page, it says strong quarter for risk assets. There's just two things I want to point out. On the top left, you can see for the year 2019, almost every strategy of U.S. stocks did extremely well last year, with growth stocks leading the way. But I think the most interesting part is if you look below and you look at the economic sectors, technology stocks earned 50.3% last year. Communication services 32%, financials, everything did real well. Energy was the laggard, but you know that's a substantial increase over the other sectors. If you turn to the next page, we just completed the decade, and if you look to the right on the next page, you'll see the sector performances from 2010-19. Same story. Technology, consumer discretionary did the best. Energy, materials did the worst. Why I'm pointing this out is we just started a new decade. I would bet at the end of the next decade, we're going to see a lot of the same things. There's a lot going on in the technology sector. 5G's coming out. Our analysts tell us that what we've seen, gains of technology over the last 5 years are going to be magnified 20 times over. So that's an area that we feel that's just changing the whole economy. It's not so much a manufacturing economy anymore. It's more of a technological in everything we do. So that's one of the areas that we see a way to add value to the returns of the fund. You can look at the other pages at your leisure. They're just more economic information, but it was a great year. Two things happened. The Fed Reserve kept interest rates low last year, and the trade tariff issues started to resolve themselves by the end of the quarter, which helped the markets out tremendously. If you turn to tab B, we'll take a look at the police pension fund for the year 2019. At the beginning of the year, this fund value was $5,852,684. There were contributions from the policemen of $255,270. Cash, the MMO that came in from the state was $272,368. The withdrawals to pay the pensioners was $468,141. So when you add the contributions, the money from the state minus the money paid out, the adjusted market value was $5,912,181, and at 12/31 it grew to $6,973,095. So the dollar value added to this fund was $1,060,942 for the year. So this fund earned 18.54% for the calendar year of 2018. If you flip to tab C, we'll take a look at the non-uniform, similar results, smaller fund. This fund at the beginning of the year was $1,698,418. There were no additions. Withdrawals to the pensions were $31,162. Adjusting that out, the adjusted market value of $1,667,256, and it grew to $1,994,971. So it was up about $327,715, up about 18.92%. So it was a great year. January, first month of February, it started out quite well. We had a little bit more volatility this year because of the coronavirus and all the fears, but the market's probably up, the funds are probably up another 2% for the first month of the year. Any questions? Any concerns on anything? That's all I got.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank
See you in 3 months.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is to hear the public. This is an opportunity for borough residents to address council. We ask that you keep it to a 3 to 5 minute time limit. And if you want to speak, if you could please step up, state your name and address for the record. And
Hi, my name is Karen Ott. I live on Merriman Road. I'd like to thank all the new council members for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I also want to thank our road crew. With all the snow and ice, they have done a fantastic job. I know my road is tricky. It's been wonderful, so.
if I may interrupt and second that.
And I also want to thank our police too. We were having trouble on our road with oversized, overweight vehicles going up and down it. And I don't know what they did, but they're gone. So I'm thankful for that too. Tonight I wanted to talk to you about the Act 14 notices that you get. New council members, I don't know how familiar you are with them, but they're there to alert you when there's new projects that are going to be, ground disturbances. They also come, they have to be signed for by someone, and you have a 15 to a 30-day time in which you can respond to them. And I feel that council is not getting enough time to respond to these. I mean, you meet twice a month, but sometimes you can't due to various reasons. And the time that these fall may be in between your meetings, and you don't have time to adequately look at them, decide how you want to handle it. And there are letters out there, forms that you can use as a template to assign a couple people when they come to sign for them. Please put them in a binder so all of you and anyone can access them. They know where they're all in the binder. And have some templates and a couple people assigned to sign for them when they come. And the templates are there to allow you the ability to ask for some additional time based on when they come in. Gives you time to review them, check our land ordinances to see if it falls in appropriately. And you're not rushed and behind the 8 ball. Let me see what else I wanted to say. And also, could you bring that binder to the public meetings? That way, if there's discussion, you have the paperwork right there. And also, when we get new Act 14 notices, could they be read into the record at the meeting, that the next meeting following their arrival? And I wanted to also ask you if you could keep separate binders by companies and projects. Again, that way they're all in one location. You can keep track of what's going on and things be done appropriately in the appropriate order that you have asked them to be done in. And also, that way they're there for the public. If someone wants to request a copy of something, they too can keep track of what's going on with projects. And I would like you to work with your solicitor to see if you could get some of these templates put together so someone can get them out in those occasions, or maybe you want to do it for every Act 14 notice so you have extra time. You've got other things you got to work on too, not just those. And I would just ask that you would respectfully, counsel, discuss it and make a motion to maybe put some of these in place. It'll give you better organization. I think it'll help Randy out, the new secretary, whoever that may be when they come. And help our new council members to be able to sit down and look at the books and know what's been going on that they have not been here for. Thank you. And I also brought copies of stuff with sample letters in and just a little info on Act 14. Do you need copies too?
You can just give them to Randy, he can pass them.
Okay, great. There you go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Collins.
McClellan, 196 Schaefer Road. We're gonna have to do something about the tractor trailer trucks. This morning, a truckload of steel come down the hill. This is dangerous. I don't know what you're gonna do, but you're gonna have to get it stopped. You have to do something, to get these tractor trailer trucks stopped. They come up the road, they stop them at Zender Road, he writes them up and finds them and lets them go up the hill. Turn them around and send them back down. I was told they can't make a right-hand turn at the bottom of Schaefer Road with the tractor trailer. It don't matter, they're not allowed on Ambridge Avenue anyway. No tractor trailer trucks are allowed through Fairings. These guys know it, and they're using Schaefer Road. You're gonna lose a truck, if it ends up in my house, shame on me. Let's do something about it. Here's your hammer.
Don't throw it at me. Thank you.
Mr. McCullough, did you notify the police when they came down by any chance?
The name?
Did you notify the police?
No,
Okay.
no.
You have a time frame when these occurred?
What's that?
A time frame, is it morning, afternoon,
No,
evening?
they come anytime. I've seen the police come down the hill. You know he made it to the end of Schaefer Road. And wherever he went from there, I don't know, 10 minutes later, tractor trailer truck comes up. Now, he can't see it, so he doesn't know. We can't have him camping there. We're gonna have to do some damn thing about it. It's getting dangerous.
Are they increasing?
Oh, they're getting more and more. Yes, they are increasing. No. If you want to take pictures, you take pictures. I'm not taking no pictures. I got a whole third of pictures.
Hi, Casey Deviney, 484 Amsler Ridge Road. I had a couple of questions. In reading through the minutes, the Boy Scouts issue, was that ever taken care of? Does anyone know? Did they ever get their money taken care of?
We did cut a check for them. I don't know if I have an address. I'll have to check and see.
I
what
just
was
was
sent.
wondering if it was ever
It's-
taken care of, because I didn't see it, that it was ever mentioned that it was followed up and taken care of.
It's being taken care of. We calculated what they were owed and cut the check.
Okay, good, because I just hate for those kids to be coming to designate their time and then not be rewarded for that. The other thing is dual processing, the check and balance things for the permits and the issues to make sure that what is being done is actually being done and being approved before it comes so that you can have more dialogue. I have some handouts that I can give to Randy to pass out that has the two-step process. The first process of everything that you need to collect, more information that you can require so that you can review things based on what you're needing so that when it's presented to the board to vote on, that you actually have all that information and it's not asking questions here. You can kind of get that information beforehand. Along with the checkoff list to make sure that those things are being done. And then with the step 2 is to be making sure that what you approved is actually what is being done and happening so that you can kind of follow up to make sure if something's not being done or is done in an order that you were unaware of or that something's not happening. So it's just more educational information to kind of help with that two-step process. I think the council will need to determine how that's going to be done. I don't know the proper procedure, if you have to go to the ordinance. who's gonna do what, but at least gives you a starting point for that two-step process. So that rather than just saying two-step process is a good idea and still approving things but not knowing or having that conversation like I didn't know or I was unaware, you're paying someone to do this kind of stuff, but you need that check and balance. What if that person's out sick? What ifs? I always use the office in my office. If I get hit by a bus, here's where you can find everything. Here's my backup for that person. You just want to have that what if, and I think this will kind of help with what those what ifs are if they do come up. So I'll give those to Randy that he can pass out. There's contact information at the bottom so that if you need extra resources or you have extra additional questions, that you can kind of reach out and kind of get those, and I think that'll kind of help with that process. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laurel Beitzinger, Pioneer Lane, Economy Borough. I spoke at the February 4th council meeting, and I have some questions now on a follow-up because I haven't been informed of anything having been done, okay, from what I requested. My previous comments at the last meeting were the following. Well, one, the 3 new council members. The citizens have many questions. We felt that this would be an excellent time for this Penn Energy project on Amsler Ridge Road to be made, what do I want to say, kind of, to have everyone have the information that's needed regarding this entire project. Council members as well as citizens. Our team is looking for complete clarity of the entire project, the plans and activities, for no other purpose than to be sure that everyone, including the new council members, fully understand what's been applied for, what's been approved, and what obligations Penn Energy will be held to. And I think it's important and essential that we all understand the facts regarding this project. I mentioned that it's very important our local leaders are setting the right precedent on the project because it could be the template on which other projects in this borough would follow and be judged upon, and we need to get it right, I feel, the first time. Too many unanswered questions, and we're asking council to consider a vote this evening to require a full accounting of all documentation that it be gathered and shared with council and the public. We need to know exactly what's been proposed, agreed to, and undertaken with regard to this project so far. We need to know if any terms of or any agreements have been violated, because that would be important. And I respectfully request council discuss the concerns I have raised again this evening along with the other residents' concerns and vote to take action to require more disclosure and transparency of this and all oil and gas projects. And then I want to finish up by saying I had called Randy last week. He got back to me via voicemail on my phone late today. And I know without a secretary, he's been trying to do the manager's job and the secretary's job and to do what our team is requesting of him is probably pretty difficult. But he said to me tonight that I could have him clarify what I just had requested. And he said he needs direction from council as to what he needs to do. We also, some of my team members had said, listen, if you need help, we're residents here. We'll help you. We'll do whatever you need. If it means, going down to the dollar store and getting binders to put this all in order, or to do making copies of things so that everything's in order, all in one place, easily accessible for all of you and any citizens that would be interested. So, thank you. Randy, do you have anything to add from what you said on my voicemail?
No, I think you covered
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Ashbaugh, 2061 Big Sewickley Creek Road. Last council meeting, I gave you some questions that we had, were concerns that we wanted to have answered. I understand you didn't get them till today, so you may not have answers put together yet, okay? So that's okay. If you have information, we'd love to hear it. But if you don't and you want to talk about it next meeting, that's okay too. But we just are, basically our concerns are that we're not really 100% certain what the expectations are with regard to how much construction was supposed to be done on Amsler Ridge Road prior to the construction on the pad commenced. We don't feel like what we were expecting was supposed to happen has happened, and yet construction has begun. Obviously, though, we don't have necessarily the resources that you have to look into that. So we're hoping that maybe you can look into that and kind of report back to us on what's going on, what's happening, what's expected, whether or not there have been any problems that have been happening up there, whether the police have been called for any concerns that may have arisen as a result of the construction, either on the road or the well pad. Just information that is kind of important to public safety and just clarifications on what's going on, a little bit of an update. I know that Randy put the questions in your boxes today. So like I said, I'm sure you haven't had an opportunity to research them just yet. But I would request that if you have any information, let us know tonight. That'd be great. If you don't and you want to put that in the next meeting's agenda, really be appreciated.
I can address a couple things.
Sure.
Because I have my police and my chief go up and down that road and back to the well site as well to see what's happening. So there's nothing more is happening where the well pad will eventually be. Duquesne Light has got the last form letter. Duquesne Light's been up there trimming trees from what my officers have told me. They're up there trimming trees, and if the weather holds nice, then they're gonna start construction on the road. Oh, they're gonna move the lines. They're gonna move, Duquesne Light's gonna move poles and some guy wires. And once that happens, then they're gonna start with the construction of the road.
Okay.
And that's what's happening now.
Okay, great, thank you. So,
Sure.
and in the construction of the road, are they like planning to shore up that one
That's-
side, or?
yes.
Because we're just a little bit confused about exactly what was ultimately,
No.
because there was a lot of back and forth about what was to be done, so.
So what eventually will happen is, from what, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but from what the chief has explained to me as to what the protocol is going to be, they're going to bring like a pile driver into position to put those posts in to set that lag wall. So the pile driver will actually be setting on the side of the road. Can you clarify?
Yeah, he come up after
Can
he's done.
Can he clarify that?
Yeah,
Give an update of
if it's okay with you
Yeah,
guys.
no, it's fine with me, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, that's.
From what I seen when I was up there is the fact that nothing's been going on since about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But prior to that, yes, that pad was being developed, and since then that has stopped. But I have noticed that when they were stopping the traffic down below, the trucks coming up weren't riding on the right-hand side of the road, they were riding on the left-hand side of the road. Because if you rode on the right-hand side of the road, you'd go over that hill with all that weight. So the road definitely needs to be repaired before you could come up there with trucks for safety reasons.
I'm sure that would hold true with all trucks,
Okay.
not just Penn Energy's trucks, correct?
Right. Well, anybody's truck, I don't care who it is, but.
All right, what I can do, my name's Casey Bowers, I'm work for Penn Energy Resources, and I can give you an update of, obviously it's concerned several of the citizens of what's going on with the B50 project and associated improvement in Amsler's Ridge Road. Mr. Cowell and the mayor are correct. There hasn't been a lot, we needed to clear, get equipment up there to clear trees. While the equipment was up there, did do some grading for the pad, but what that was absolutely necessary for the we need to create a staging area for the pile and lag wall that's being constructed. So what's happening now that the wall materials have been delivered. Duquesne Light has trimmed the trees to necessary to make way for the relocated lines. They will relocate those poles, weather permitting, and we don't dictate Duquesne Light's schedule, but we hope that'll occur. And since they did trim the trees, I don't think they would trim the trees for no reason, so we expect that to happen soon. What will happen after that is you can begin work on to cut out. There's going to be a drive around, roughly opposite of where the potential slide area is. We're building the wall. What we did is we acquired rights on the uphill landowner's land to put basically a temporary lane, a little bypass of that area. That way our equipment isn't impeding traffic while we install the wall. We expect the wall project to go on for 4 or 5 weeks. Meanwhile, you can see where trees have been removed previously. This was before Duquesne Light trimmed when they trimmed just recently trimmed the trees, that was up at the height of the lines. Before that, we removed trees to account for to recontour the banks and do some of the straightening and widening that was set forth on the drawings that were submitted to the borough. We expect that to occur, or that'll take 1 to 2 weeks. And that can be going on about at the same time as the wall construction will be. And then by that time, hopefully winter is, by that time that work's done, assuming the weather continues to improve, that's when we would do the FDR, the full depth reclamation in the paving. That way the road will be complete. And then we're, in the meantime, minimizing any loads. There's going to be loads on that road, but it's associated with the road improvements themselves.
Okay.
So that's the best timeline I have right now.
And as long as your guys continue to, well, of course, Mr. Shoup is, overseeing for us, but continue to inform the police, which he said Mr. Schwab calls him often to let him know, hey, we're going to have these trucks, this truck, we're going to have flaggers at this time. And I like my guys to, not that we're, I don't want to say spying, but we're just making sure that everything's happening correctly. So if you see my guys up there, my officers up there a lot, I'm just want them to make sure that the flaggers can be seen and they have a clear line of vision, because I've been in situations where flaggers, you can't see them so good. So I want to make sure that the flaggers are safe and.
We appreciate the police presence.
Okay.
So and I think that communication is going well between Mr. Schwab and the police department.
Yeah.
If that ever changes,
Okay.
always contact me. But
Okay.
I think that's working well, and we do appreciate
Okay.
the department's efforts.
Thank you.
If I could make a request, if we could get updates before our meetings, or if you know something's going to happen, give us like a couple week notice so we can let the residents know, or something.
Yeah. I think maybe when different phases are, because after the road is constructed, we'll be moving forward with pad construction. We'd be happy to do that.
So you don't have to. You're welcome to come to the meetings, but even if we just got an email, we can present it as well, just so we can keep everybody informed.
Be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Great, we will move on to the meeting minutes.
We'll have to pass on those.
All right. Could I have a motion to table the approval of the December 10th meeting minutes to the next meeting?
Motion.
Can I have a second? Okay, thanks. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Committees, papers here. Since they're just being formed tonight, I will handle a few things that need to happen for tonight for the committees, because it's unfair to ask somebody else to do it when they just found out about it. So. I think there's enough to go down there. So I'll just announce the chairpersons, chair people, whatever. Personnel will be Mrs. Konecki, Finance, Mr. Kowal, Public Safety, Mr. Ruckert, Public Works, Mr. Civi, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Buchanan, Ordinance Committee, myself, and Property and Buildings, Mr. Maroney. So some housekeeping things for tonight is, did everyone get the 3 list of bills?
Can you repeat those again? I'm so sorry.
That's okay, yes. Personnel, Mrs. Konecki. Finance, Mr. Kowal. Public Safety, Mr. Ruckert. Public Works, Mr. Civi. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Buchanan. Ordinance is myself. And Property and Buildings, Mr. Maroney.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they'll be in the minutes as well, whenever they're published.
You know, I know I talked to you about chairperson when RJ was president. He was advised that he couldn't be a chairperson because he's the one who oversaw the chairs. And I believe it's in the Robert's Rules of Order that the chairperson or the president can't be a chairperson.
I've been the chairperson of the Personnel Committee for the last 18 months, and there wasn't any discussion of this.
Well, the reason that didn't come to my attention is because
Well, council actually advised me to be the chairperson of that at a meeting I wasn't here for.
Well, that's news to me, but that's beside the point. That was an error. Mr. Asper, what's the reason why?
Yeah, I mean, Pat, I talked to you and Brian about it. You know, it's up to this council. You know, there's always the public perception that when you have the chairman of the board electing himself or herself as a chairman of the committee, that could always be looked at as a jaundice eye.
As a what?
It could be looked at with a jaundice eye or a little unfavorable. I did have that discussion with Mr. Westrom as a result of your call. I did reach out to Mr. Westrom, and he told me that, you know, I don't know why it's a problem now. When I was the chairman of the Personnel Committee, that everybody decidedly so thought that I should put on there, and I want to put myself as the chairperson of the Ordinance Committee. I said, well, if it comes up for discussion, I think that the council's has a rightful opinion to discuss it.
Yeah, the Personnel Committee, I think it might have been 18 months, but it was like 16 months, about 18 months that we were trying to ask you to get, to name the members of the Personnel Committee.
Well, no, the members were there from day one. It was Mrs. Mutzler and Mr. Feckovich.
Well, that's not my...
I agree with Pat. We
Yeah.
tried a personnel committee and it never ever showed up.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be part of the personnel committee, which never ever took place. We've never had a meeting, we've never had nothing for personnel.
We've had meetings. Mrs. Mutzler, Mr. Feckovich, and I had that meeting.
Well, that's not what I'm aware of.
Well, you weren't at the meeting.
Does the borough even need committees?
No. There's other municipalities in the state that disband all their committees.
It's not necessary. I mean, they're ad hoc committees. The committees have no, I mean, we've discussed this multiple times. The committees have no real say-so in anything. The only thing they could do is bring their thoughts and opinions to the board, but I know the committees have been around as long as I have been here. You know, having committees is not mandatory, but I know that it's been around in economy as long as I've been here.
I just have a question on one of these is, I mean, I know Gary Buchanan's in charge of his profession is the road department, so to speak. don't you think that maybe he should be in charge of that rather than in charge of Parks and
When I
Recreation?
got elected 2 years ago, Mr. Buchanan voiced an interest not to be on Public Works because his brother is a road crew.
Okay.
Yeah, that
I mean,
was
if he
always
doesn't
an
want to
issue.
do it, that's fine, but I just thought with his expertise, we're kind of missing the boat, you know?
I think during
I
council
said,
meetings,
you're
he's,
saying that I said I didn't want to be on it?
Yeah, because
No, I didn't.
of your brother.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
The only thing I ever said was my things are, what I do is I always, during the list of bills, I always recuse myself from anything that has to do with the road department, so somebody can't say that I'm trying to better something for my brother.
Okay, well.
That had nothing to do, I've never ever said that I never wanted to be on the road department.
Well, we can,
Because I have actually even told you last year, when you had stuck me, when you put me on the other committee last year, I said that, I even talked to you about that, saying, don't you think that it'd be a little wiser to
I
have
don't
me on?
remember that.
Well, see,
You don't remember things, I don't remember things.
Okay.
You
But
can't put words in my
anyhow,
mouth.
yeah.
I will,
That's how it works.
I'll go back and look at the ordinance committee, the rest of them stand as
I
presented.
think we need to make another vote for the president. I think we need to get back and do the president. I don't know whatever happened about that. We need to vote for another president, like when I was trying to put Mr. Colo in the president on the reorganization.
Well, make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to see him as the president. You
Yeah,
haven't
that-
been,
that can't be the
you've missed
motion.
quite a few meetings and stuff. as
The
far as
motion
being the
has to
president.
be to have another reorganization meeting. That's what the motion has to be.
Well, that's, I don't know, is that true, Mr. Haskell? You're saying it has to be during another
Yeah, if you're
reorganization?
gonna re-elect officers, it has to be through a reorganization vote. So if you're gonna move to have a new chairman of the board, that would have to be done through a reorganization. And if you make a motion and the motion carries, then we could go through that process again.
That's the way it would be framed, and then you would nominate.
Is there a motion for another
I think
organization?
what we need to do is, we need to go to executive session and discuss all of this bullcrap, so we're not out here.
I don't think we can discuss this in executive session.
We can discuss
I
that.
don't think so.
Can we, Mr. Asgar?
When you say, I was just looking up the Borough Council, a couple of things. What issues do we want to discuss, Mr. Cole?
A reorganization meeting. Let's just discuss the issue before we're out here arguing about it.
I
I'm
don't
not
think
in
that,
favor of sitting out here and arguing about X, Y, and Z. You know, things were done, I felt improper at the beginning, but now we need to move on. Okay, that's number one.
right.
And number two, I don't want to see us out here screaming at one another. This place needs to operate. We need to sit around here collectively and make decisions for the entire community. And that's why I brought up the fact of Gary being on the road department, because of his expertise. I'm thinking, he knows more about roads than I know. So I'm thinking, why would you not put him in charge of something like that? Use the people where you think you can use them, and to the betterment of the community. And that's why I said, maybe we should just hold off on these committees and let him, let's just go through the meeting, and next week we can discuss these again.
No, no, we're not gonna keep doing this every meeting. If you guys wanna reorganize, let's just get it out of the way, let's take the vote, and if not, let's move on. And that's another problem, we keep kicking the can down the road here too. So now we're gonna wait till next meeting, and then if the committees aren't what everybody wants, it's gonna be, let's wait till the next meeting. So I'll go back and I'll redo the ordinance committee, and then all the rest stand as presented, and if we wanna have a reorganization meeting, somebody make a motion in a second and we'll vote on it. If not, let's please move on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ascar, but if we do have a reorganization meeting, do we not have to put that in an advertise that first?
No, not if somebody's gonna make a sua sponte motion to reorganize. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Okay.
So, unless it was a predetermined idea of a collective group of council people that, we're gonna go in here and reorganize, and instead of sandbagging the entire council, then yes, it would be best to do it through a advertisement.
I'll ask one more time, is there a motion to reorganize?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on the matter?
I would just like to say that I think it's only fair because he didn't have the opportunity to join in, so it should be.
I'm the one that asked for the motion.
Pardon me?
I'm the one that asked for a motion, I think it's fair too.
Yeah.
Mr. Kunkel, can you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Recurin.
The roll call vote is to put Mr. Cowell and.
Is to have a reorganization.
Reorganization meeting, yes. Yes for a reorganization.
Mr. Cowell.
Yes.
Mr. Moreau.
No.
Mr. Ruppert.
No.
Mr. Civi.
No.
Mrs. Connection.
Yes.
Mr. Westrom.
No.
4 noes, 3 yes. Motion fails.
Thank you. So with that, has everyone had an opportunity to look through the list of bills? I believe Liz sent a couple this afternoon that she would like to have added to the list for approval. Does anybody have any questions on the list of bills?
Yes. Why are we paying late fees?
We missed the meeting in January.
Not an excuse. We already know that this, what bills have we not paid in how many years?
Well, I would say to Liz's defense, I was here when we missed that meeting, and she was like, it makes me so upset that I can't pay these bills. She said she would like to know that it would be okay for her. I don't know if you were in the office when she told me this. It would be okay for her to pay the standing bills so that we don't get these late fees.
That's my exact point. We know they're going to get approved.
Right.
How many times have we not approved bills? Never.
I can't.
You gotta be paid.
And the ones that are on there are frivolous anyway. It's Napa Auto Parts. We know what we can't return a part we probably already put on.
I agree
Income
with
Supply's
you.
another one. We probably, as a, salt or something.
Yeah,
Prior council had looked at that differently.
right.
So I'm trying to follow whatever council wants done. I agree with you, we should pay bills that are owed, so we don't get late fees,
Yeah.
but that's a decision for council to make.
Make a motion.
Do you want to make a motion for standing bills to be paid, the ones that
Well,
are recurring?
I think we should also, there's probably should be some guidelines, I would imagine. I'm sure if it's excessive amount or what, some amount or something, some
Let's-
condition. But
Let's try to think of some guidelines before we put a willy-nilly motion into effect.
If you want to submit ideas to me, I'll pass them out to everybody, or
Okay.
just pass them out to everybody. I've got a couple thoughts on it myself, I think you should consider. But,
Sounds good idea then.
I think there does need to be some type of limitation, but for the bills, like what Mr. Sibley said, bills that we know are going to get paid should be paid.
Right, phone bill, gas bill, light bill.
That way we avoid nearly every late bill. If there is a controversial purchase of some nature, those are the ones that probably should be held, until council has a chance to look at it, which is very rare. It's, doesn't happen often. So I think that's a good idea.
All right, so before next meeting, if anybody has any ideas,
Yeah.
please send them to Mr. Kunkel. Any other questions?
The animal control bill for $550, we had requested that, we wanted to know how many complaints we had a month that we were getting to see if we wanted this service. And if we don't want the service, I know other communities use the road department to do this type of work, to pick these animals up. So I really don't know how many, did anybody get that figure? Of how many calls we had a month for that?
I haven't had a chance to look any further into it.
Is this for like dead animals?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And dogs. I know the council had me look into the issue, that's under my report. I did talk to the owner of that animal control. That 550 includes 24/7, 24-hour on-call service to pick up dogs or stray dogs. Part of that contract also includes if the dog is licensed, it includes a 15-day stay within their kennels to locate the proper owner of the dog. If it's not located within 15 days, and the dog's turned over to a humane society or a like facility. If the dog is not licensed, they hold the dog for 7 days. If nobody comes for that dog within 7 days, or there's no reports made to council, that dog is turned over to the Humane Society or a like service. Pat was asking about the cat issue, because in the contract it said there was a call for price to remove a cat.
Right.
So if the police, if our zoning officer, if anybody within the borough or borough official call her to have a cat removed, that fee will be $40 per cat that will be assessed to the borough. If a citizen, including yourself if you're calling as a citizen, and call her and say, I have 2 cats in my yard, I want them removed, it would cost that particular borough resident $40 per cat to have them removed. If the individual does not want to pay for that $40 service, she will rent. She has, well, let me back up. Any cats that she removes, she takes them to her boarding facility, makes sure they have their shots, makes sure they're of health. She keeps them for so many days. If nobody reports a missing pet, those cats are either given to homes that she knows that people want cats, or they're transferred to Humane Society. Then she had the per rate, the same per rate fee would pertain to dead carcasses of animals. She cannot do wildlife. Wildlife obviously is sanctioned under state rules and regulations, in which she wouldn't be able to perform on-call services for any wildlife. You would have to call the Gaming Commission for that. So
then basically our $550 is covering cats and dogs?
Just dogs, Mr. Cole.
Just dogs?
Yes, sir. And a 24-hour service, and her keeping them.
I mean, I could see if we had a lot of dogs running around, but I mean, we need to have some kind of figures, you know?
Well, and I don't have a clarification, so just this month, and I don't have my end of year with me anymore, it's back at my house. I read it last year, and I don't or last month, and I don't remember what it was. So just from January 1st to the end of January, we had 4 animal calls. What those animal calls were, I don't know, but I can find out. And I'll bring my end of year stats home with me, and we'll see.
I mean, we'll pay the bill, but I just want to,
Yeah.
you know,
Make sure we're getting our money's worth.
and if we're not, then discontinue service.
Or 4 calls, we don't know what the calls were, but let's say they were to pick up a dog, but that's $125 a call then. So that's more than taking $40, $50 off the road. So I don't think that's feasible.
She does recognize that stray cats are a major problem everywhere.
They won't pick them up here.
I'm sorry?
Can I say something? As a code enforcement officer?
Yeah.
Jake Thomas, code enforcement officer. I'm getting numerous calls on these feral cats, okay? I mean, I'm getting a lot of calls. I have one person, 3 different homes in one section of the borough right now, where I'm getting called probably 2 or 3 times a week. I called Animal, the place we deal with, that takes our dogs and that. And you're saying a $40 fee in that?
Yes, sir.
I talked to the lady that's in charge of all that, Kim, and I can't think of her last name, but anyways, I just spoke to her about 2 weeks ago and asked her if she could help us. And would they come out and remove the cats? She told me they won't do that. She didn't say fees or anything. She said, I could try to help you and talk to the residents and that, but they won't come and take them feral cats.
Wouldn't that be something under your purview though, code
Yes.
enforcement?
Well, yes, it is, but I need some direction. What do I do when I have 3 neighbors that live next to each other and they have 15 or 20 feral cats there in their yards? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to remove them?
I don't, in talking to Kim through emails and phone discussions, even leading up to today, including today, it's going to be a $40 fee. She is not going to come out here until she knows who is paying that $40 fee, because she doesn't want to come all the way out from Houston, PA, or the other side of Pittsburgh to pick up 2 or 3 cats. And she has the cats now, and she goes to collect her fee, and the borough's gonna say, no, that's not my responsibility. And then the homeowner where the cats were sitting in their yard that called you to come get them, they're gonna say, they're not my cats, I'm not paying for it.
What do I do at that point?
Right. So,
Do I let the homeowner know that they have to pay the $40 fee?
Per cat?
Per cat, yes.
I think that would be just to keep the borough out of any issues or liabilities. I think that the homeowners need to know that up front. Now, Kim did go on to say that, it's simply a matter of education, where if the homeowners understand, don't feed the cat, the nature, the natural processes of nature, she said, will kick in, and that cat will go elsewhere for food. So that cat might show up 1, 2, 3 days in a row, purring, scratching, yelping. But if the homeowner were to not pay attention to that cat will probably go away in 2 to 3 days.
Because I had one lady over there that was actually feeding them on her porch and had beds and everything. And I approached them about it, and I told her I was gonna have somebody come and remove them. And she said to me, she said, will you work with me? I said, yes, I'll work with you. And she said, let me try to get rid of it. And she did. She got rid of between 8 and 10 cats over there. But the cats that were left migrated to the 2 or 3 yards next to her and across the street. So,
Well, according to the ordinance that the majority of council wanted to pass and did pass, then if I'm understanding the cruxes of the ordinance.
I know where you're going, and you're right.
That's right, and that's where it gets
if she
sticky.
feeds them, then
That you
she's
have to
responsible.
cite her
yes.
for feeding a cat, a feral cat, because her neighbors are complaining. If a feral cat goes onto the neighbor's yard, then you have to cite her.
Well, they've all moved from her place. She stopped feeding them, and she got rid of, like I said, 8 to 10 of them. And
Well, maybe tell,
the ones that are left went to the homes next to them.
are they feeding them?
No. But they're really fed up with it, and they're calling me and saying they're gonna come to council if I don't do anything about it, or they're gonna do something in the newspaper. And I said, bear with me, I'm trying to take care of the situation. So that's why I need a little bit of direction on what to do with it.
Well, maybe explain like Mr. Asgar said,
I'm going to
how
now,
how
yes.
she explained to him, if you don't feed them, they will go away.
Right. I'll try that out. But I just wanted a little bit of direction here to let you know what I'm dealing with on a these cats. It's a big problem right now. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on the bills? Is there a motion to approve the bills for the month?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Conklin, I want to recuse myself from the road department.
I'm sorry, please say.
Recuse my vote from the, for paying the bills in the road department.
Oh, okay. Threw me off there a second.
And I have two public works personnel issues to discuss in executive session. And also why we're here, an executive session to talk about the borough secretary hire. With possible votes on all three. With that, Mayor Borough.
Okay, so for the month ending January 2020, we patrolled 11,585 miles. We used 954 gallons of gas. Issued 24 traffic citations, 18 vehicle stops and warnings, 5 non-traffic citations, and 14 criminal complaints filed. School resource officer had 21 calls to handle during the month. 7 retail thefts, 10 suspicious vehicles, 4 animal calls, 25 buildings and house checks, 3 drug violations, for a total of 494 service calls. My report will be on file in the office. I'll give this to Randy at the end of the meeting. I wanted to talk about, George Hartzell gave a letter to the chief this week. He's been on the drop for a while, as you know, and he submitted a resignation letter. So let me just read it into the minutes. February 7th, 2020, Randy, per our conversation on Tuesday, I've decided to make my last day at work on May 21st, which is my last night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I would like to use the time I've earned off until August 5th, 2020, which is my retirement date. This would also include vacation days this year and any earned for next year, sick and personal days. I also ask if I could be paid any unused time that I've earned that I would not be able to use. Please let me know if I'm able to do this. So August 5th, 2020 is his final date. So if you see George out and about, or you want to stop up at the police department and wish him well on his retirement, I could go into some more shift information in executive session, which I'm going to ask for executive session with a vote. The cars. So we had a soft hold on 2 cars up at C. Harper Ford. And as you know, these 2020s are a hot commodity because nobody could get any 2019s and they just started rolling in. We only got 1 car right now, so they went and picked up the other car. The next batch of cars is due in either the end of March or beginning of April. They have 1 tagged for us so that we can get the other car. So that's a good thing.
Is there any increase in price?
No, they're going to hold the price for us because, as is common in model years, as the models build, sometimes they tweak things and prices go up, but they're going to honor the price for us.
Is there any discount?
Yeah, I wish. Well, actually, there is a discount. If you, because Ford realizes what a fiasco this sort of rollout has been, and they knew there was a problem with the wiring harness for the interceptors. So with every Ford purchase, if you need to purchase Ford parts, they will give you a $1,200 credit. So we will have a $1,200 credit for this year. Or actually, we should have a $2,400 credit if we need parts for any of our other Fords. And that's for any Ford police vehicle we might have. So we have that. It's not a discount on the card, but we have this something. And I forgot to have Kathy's new contract signed, so I need to see you afterwards. We agreed on the contract, I just forgot to get it signed. And
The two cars that are sitting down there now, to be, go to 422?
Yes.
Who takes the emblems off? We can't send them up there with police.
I don't really know how that happens, how that works.
I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know how that works, to be honest.
Okay.
But I can find that out too. And that's about all I have other than for my executive session. Short and sweet today.
And what was the purpose for the executive session?
Personnel.
Personnel.
All right, Mr. Ascar?
Economy Borough has a franchise agreement with Comcast Cable. They're your provider here in the borough for TV, internet, and all that jazz. Typically a 10-year contract. Well, that contract's up March 3rd, I believe. They're asking for a renewal, March 8th, I'm sorry. They're asking for a renewal of that agreement based on your old agreement. I read through the agreement. It seemed to be very much boilerplate. This agreement, from what I was able to research, is no different than other agreements that Comcast has with other municipalities.
Can we open the borough up to other providers to come in and still have Comcast? Obviously, they're here. Can we open it up, because it's like a free market then? Right now, it's a closed market. They could do whatever they want.
And it is, because it's an exclusive agreement. And I don't know if you do open it up, I don't know if, obviously those fees may or may not change with Comcast. And I don't know that. I've never had any discussions with Comcast. Never had any discussions with any other providers. Obviously, Borough can open it up to make it a non-exclusive.
I mean, you have more than one provider. That way, maybe rates will be different or cheaper for residents, rather than just having.
Do you have Verizon, and some people in Sunset Hills have
Yeah, there's different providers, not in this area.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Sunset Hills.
The problem I have on Ridge Road Extension, I would love to get rid of Comcast, because it just goes up and up and up and up.
Right.
And Verizon, I can get there, and I'm still gonna look into it, because I had their phone at one time. I can get the phone, but I can't get internet because apparently there's trouble with the lines, or the line can't handle it, or something.
And that's the
I
same
mean, I
thing with
wouldn't be
Beaver Borough.
I
You
wouldn't be
can't get
objective
Fios.
to open it up just for free market. I mean, you could still have Comcast, but you'd have other lines. People can pick who they want then. You know what I mean? Rather than just having one sole provider.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it is
Well, I
free
think you still
market, but how can, right, you can't
think I can
force
switch.
somebody to
I
come
can't.
in and expand the lines. You can't say, because on Facebook, I hate to say, but on Facebook, on the Economy Borough page that someone runs, there's a lot of consternation about Comcast. And they were trying to get this company called Go NetSpeed to come in. Even if we open it, they still need to put the infrastructure in place
Right.
in order to do that.
Right.
I don't know if we opened it.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I don't know. I would like to see it open, that other companies could come in and run their infrastructure. That way, people can get different internet, different things.
But do we
cheaper.
stop them? That's, I guess, my question. Do we stop them? Does this stop
Comcast has an
them?
exclusive right. I mean, nobody else can come in here.
And I think that Go NetSpeed's only for internet, it's not for cable.
Oh.
Is my understanding.
But Mr. Asper, is that true? That contract stops them? Like Verizon from?
Oh, yeah, because this is an exclusive agreement
Yeah,
that
it's
you guys have.
So how do we reach out to, say, Verizon to see if they can,
Well, we would have to reach out to their government affairs director, her name's Jennifer McClellan, over at Comcast, and say that, we understand our contract's coming up. The council's looking to give you the same agreement, except it's gonna be non-exclusive. I don't know where that goes from here, to be honest with you.
on that contract, is it possible to maybe negotiate for on a monthly basis or say, approve it for, say, 2 months or something?
Well, they want your business, so you're kind of a little bit in the driver's seat. You don't have to give them the 10 years that they're asking.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
It really is.
How does that work with their wires and stuff that aren't here?
Well, that's just it, like the mayor and Mr. Civi was talking about. You don't have, like, Beaver Borough. Everybody, I have a bunch of friends in Brighton or wherever that rant and rave about Verizon Files. Or in Beaver, you can't get Files. I don't know if that's the same, it sounds like that's the same situation here where you can't get Files. So the question is, what providers do have access on or rent access off of these telephone wires and so on and so forth to provide counsel or to provide the citizens here another alternative.
Yeah, you might have to end up paying a line fee or something like that. They could still use the same lines, just different, like.
Different providers.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And when I was researching this to see other agreements, I did see in the code, it's pretty interesting that council has the ability, and I'm not suggesting to do it, but council has the ability to create their own cable and TV network provider. And I thought that was pretty interesting because that seemed to be a pretty big task to be able to take on that sort of fee.
Before you consider that, one thing I would ask you to do, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote you the exact number. It's my understanding with the franchise agreement comes the franchise fee. If you don't have the franchise agreement, the fee goes away, and it's a sizable portion of money. It's, I don't have that in front of me, but it's probably in the neighborhood of $180,000 a year, so that would be disappearing.
That comes to the borough.
So you need to keep that in mind before you make a final decision. That money will have to be made up for somehow.
And that's their carrot on the stick to give them that exclusivity.
Right.
Would we have to advertise it, like, that we're looking at a different provider? Would we have, so that these other, or do we just contact them?
I don't think it I don't believe that this is a service that you need to advertise. This would be a service that you would not have to advertise, but somebody would have to get on the horn ASAP to reach out to the other providers, whoever they may be, to see if they do provide such services here in the community, and if they do, what's it worth to them?
Right.
So our
Or
franchise.
maybe go back to Comcast and say, that 180 or whatever that they're putting up on the board isn't enough for a 10-year period.
Our franchise fees the actual franchise fees for 2018 was $209,634. That's a nice chunk of change we get.
We gotta remember, if we raise the franchise fee, that just gets put back on the customers.
We don't determine the franchise
No,
fee.
no, but
But they get put on your
on your
Comcast
cable
bill.
bill, it says franchise fee, so.
Right.
So we pay the franchise fee.
But I'm saying it comes to the borough.
Comes back, so
Yeah.
we just wanna.
Right, it's like a weird tax, to be honest.
It's up to 5%, and we have a 5% fee.
Okay.
Can I say something? I had FiOS in Franklin Park. It's the same as Comcast, and the prices are gonna be the same, and I don't notice any difference in my service. Just
I've
throwing
heard
that out there.
by somebody else as well.
I think we should still look at prices, that people are gonna compete against one
Right.
another. We might get something cheap, you know what I mean? Because right now, you got one person, they do whatever they want, same with you guys probably, You have 3 people in there, it's a different world,
We can't leave this contract open hanging though, because that could affect our franchise fee right now. Correct?
Yeah, we'll have, as long as we have a quorum at the next meeting, we'll have one more meeting prior to the expiration of this agreement, because this agreement expires March 8th.
And that's what I was asking, if we could just extend that for a few months or a couple months or something.
Well, we have a couple of weeks to get some figures anyway. You
Right.
know? Let's get some figures before we decide.
Who's gonna do that?
Randy? We're his secretary. We're the other.
As we all know, the Walmart assessment appeal, that's before Senior Judge Quietus. I spoke to that at the last meeting. The animal control contract I discussed. It sounds like that agreement's still on hold as well.
Yeah.
And I'll shoot her an email to that effect. The only other matter is council wanted to move forward and amend the ordinance 440 pertaining to oil and gas, and it was one particular section. In talking with Pat and going back with all of the other ordinances that were provided to Pat, and Pat was kind enough to provide to me. You know, when we go through this amendment process, we're gonna have to have public hearings on them, we're gonna have to advertise it. We're gonna have to advertise the notice of the adoption, we're gonna have to provide the notices to local planning commission as well as the county planning commission. We all know that. And then after 30 days of that being in their hand, then we could go ahead and take a vote. What I was sharing with Pat, I wholeheartedly believe that the public announcement that we made, or that Brian made last meeting, that we are going to amend ordinance 440, well falls within the pending ordinance rule, in which as long as an amendment to a particular ordinance is publicized, and being that it has been publicized in public to the public, it grants the borough a lot of cover and a lot of protections that the courts have upheld, that somebody coming in and trying to do something that would be in opposition to that amended ordinance, that application or permit, whatever it may be, would not fly. With that being said, I would like to work with whoever that ordinance committee is. Let's adopt the ordinance let's bring to the council table the ordinance or the proposed ordinance that everybody has in mind, or that the ordinance committee has in mind for all use, so we could start mulling this over and moving forward with it. Now, the one thing that I shared with Pat earlier is that what the pending ordinance rule will not allow is for this council or any council to drag their feet a year, 2 years, or however long it may be, just to act as a impetus to somebody trying to do something. So obviously the courts will look at that. That's very objective. They'll look at everything that the council is doing, in this case, that the ordinance committee is doing. As long as we're showing work that we are looking to amend this and this ordinance in a variety of manners, the court's going to uphold any challenge that anybody would try to bring in regards to that pending ordinance provision.
Well, we want to change it from a permitting ordinance to a conditional use, correct? Is that what we want to do?
Well, I know.
Because right now we're on a permitting one where they just come and get a permit and do whatever they want. If you go to conditional service, then from what I understand, it has to come, you have conditions that you have to meet.
Right, but that didn't come up. That was one of the issues that were discussed at the last meeting, along with the setbacks going up to 1,050 feet. But there was some discussion, well, should it be 1,050 feet if it is on a leaseor's property? So that's why I'm saying, instead of running down a hill and doing amendment after amendment after amendment, let's get one amendment done. Let's do it in short order here. We've received tons of ordinances, you know, and I failed to do so, but I need to send all council the process and the current state law, because it has changed drastically, giving council a lot of authority and leeway to do what they want, as long as we're not showing that we're being exclusionary.
Well, we're talking about that. The insurances that are provided right now that are in the ordinances, are they site-specific? In other words, basically, you know, like if it's $5 million for that site, or is it $5 million over 10 sites? I mean, we need to look at it to find out if we're going to be, like if Amster Road, what is the insurance on that? Is it site-specific of $5 million if something happens? Or because if we don't cover ourselves, something happens, then Economy Borough is responsible, rather than...
Yeah, and it should be per project, per occurrence, right?
I mean, we can have that part of the ordinance that it's in there somewhere, you know?
Yeah, and typically those are put in developers' agreements. Those are typically put in areas where the permitting or the bondings, you know, when they're required to post bonds, you might want that $5 million bond instead of a $100,000 bond or something like that. So, you know, I know Pat and I talked about this a lot over the past 2 years, Pat. I mean, there can be a lot of changes that the new state law affords this council to make changes to that ordinance, as long as this council doesn't act in an exclusionary manner where we're going to try to completely cut out an industry or a particular housing project or business or something of that nature. And tonight I will be sure to resend those emails that we prepared, because I think that based on the case law and the various ordinances that we received from some of the folks in the audience, and based on our research, there's a lot of change.
Yeah, because when I first got on council, I remember asking you about this ordinance, and you said we can't do anything, and that was the law at the time.
That's correct.
And now the Supreme Court, this past December, before a year ago now, has, like you said, given us a lot of leeway, which we should, you know, take advantage of for the protection of the community.
Should we, as a whole, look at maybe hiring special counsel to come up with these ordinances? Because,
yeah, you can.
Because then people are, that's what they're there for, you know? I mean, because that might be the best way to go.
Yeah, you can. I mean, we've discussed it multiple times. I think Pat brought one or two.
Well, I brought it up, yeah, I brought it up last week, and then Mr. Western says we'll get something out right away, and then we could look at that. When I suggested special counsel, that's now changed because you've informed us now that we're protected anyways under the pending ordinance doctrine. So.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, listen, I mean, council could do what they want to do, but a lot of the ordinances or the new ordinances are pretty similar. If anybody's taken the time to read them, I know Pat has. Pat and I had those discussions. It's just, you know, what does Borough Council want to see? So, I mean, I don't want to leave it open-ended, but I do want to continue to move forward until you guys do decide if you want to bring in outside counsel. Obviously, whoever he or she may be, I obviously have no problems working with whoever that may be to work in conjunction with them one way or the other. That's not a big deal. But obviously, that's going to be up to council. If that's something you guys want to do, we should probably do it sooner than later. But in the meantime, I think that Scott, myself, and council, whoever that committee is, we do need to start pressing forward, because we do have timelines that we have to adhere to through the NPC, and, you know, I don't want us to fall victim to that because we're dragging our feet.
I think my concern with some of the outside counsel that I've heard of that they're like activist counsel. They're activist attorneys looking for one thing. And I think we also need to remember as a council that 70% of the citizens in this borough hold leases. So I just think we need to look at all sides of it.
Yeah, and you know, Mayor, you're going to get flack one way or the other.
Right.
Right? You have your people that are for it, you have your people that are against it. I think we proved that when we had that town hall meeting, that you had almost like a divided room there. But I think council should take comfort in the fact that whoever you hire, first and foremost, you gotta feel comfortable with that firm or that individual. Secondly, no matter what that individual proposes to the council, it doesn't go anywhere without a majority vote. You know, that outside counsel who, you know, we've worked with outside counsel in the past on other matters of personnel and so on and so forth. They're no different than if they were sitting in this seat. We could only advise you what to do. The bottom line is it's going to be up to you all to make that final decision. And, you know, I'm comfortable with whoever the majority, if you do decide to go with outside counsel, whoever you guys decide to go as a majority vote, you're going to have to tell them what the majority of this council wants. He cannot go into a vacuum, or she cannot go into a vacuum and show up 3 days later and say, I got a 15-page oil and gas ordinance for you guys to sign. Because if you sign it, not being a part of that work product, then you're going to open yourselves up to liability.
Well, if council does decide to go with another outside firm to look at the ordinance or rewrite an ordinance, can council ask for a request for quotes from maybe 3 different firms?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we're going to be plowing ahead here regardless.
Okay.
So if you guys go that route and whoever you bring in, that's all I'm gonna do is say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, this is what we have today. I'm gonna hand it off to you, and now you're the quarterback of this game plan, not me.
Okay.
That's all. I just want to make sure that council is aware that we need to continue to move forward like we have for the past 2 weeks.
Right, and I understand that, and I agree with you right now that we should be pounding it out. It's a lot cheaper, us pounding it out, looking at what special counsel has already written.
Yeah.
So we could look at theirs, you know, try to adapt it to us, and then if we still want to go with special counsel, we at least have saved all that time and money.
Yes.
I agree. And that's part of what the ordinance committee, when it's finalized,
Right.
can by all means do before we start investing money into this, have a game plan. So if this is finalized in 2 weeks, and from there we can move forward with it and at least get an idea.
In 2 weeks.
No. The ordinance committee. The ordinance committee.
Well, and I also think this is a big enough and important enough issue that regardless of who's on the committee, we all should review.
Of course.
If we have before, and we all should have input. This is the biggest ordinance we have to look at right now, so it shouldn't be. It's unfair to tell 3 people that they care. I know. I'm just.
No, I know
I'm
what you're
just getting
saying.
out
Yes.
there. I just want to make sure that we're all involved because we all have to face the consequences one way or another when it's done. So. All right.
The only other matter, I received a letter from Dornish Law Offices. He sent a letter in regards, and this is when Josh was coming to these meetings. I reached out to him one time, I never heard back from him. Then I get a 3-page letter saying that he can't get in touch with me. question. This is in regards to a issue with BLS Transit and Supply, dealing with a permit that was issued back in 2018. Scott, you're nodding your head, yes?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Okay, so I am completely unfamiliar with this. I tried calling them on the way up here, and I was unable to get through, and I understand it, 6:30, 6:45. But I do want to reach out to him. I don't know who I should talk to here at the borough about this, because I looked in our filing cabinet, and we have no files on this. I understand an issue was granted and revoked, and...
Can you elaborate, Scott?
It's ransomonic, so we're waiting for vehicle permit. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, reach out to me. I mean, I can bring you up to speed on it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott.
And before we forget, Randy, would you please pass those things so we each have a copy of what the
that's a good
kind women left us there?
Anything else with gas cars?
I believe that's everything.
I want to shoehorn something in between the solicitor and the engineer's report, because both of you could confirm this for me, but I was on the PA Borough Association site over the weekend, and it looks like effective January 2020, our thresholds for bidding have changed. They're now 11,300 required cap for no formal bidding or written or telephonic quotations. Purchases and contracts between 11,300 and 21,000 require 3 quotes, and purchases over 21,000 require formal bidding. Is that correct, as far as you know?
That is correct.
Okay, so just keep that in mind, all the committees, when they're looking for upgrades or improvements, those are the new thresholds, and I can scan emails to everybody.
Please and thank you.
Yep, it's right from that website. So. With that, Mr. Shoup?
So, on the agenda, the Froman developer request we put under my line item, and I did see the correspondence came in from McLaren Road Properties through Mr. Askar, requesting attendance at the meeting to discuss a pending PRD project that they're proposing on property off of Ballroom Heights Road. A few months ago, Borough Council did rezone some property, or part of some property, to allow for R2 development. And that developer, I think, has a request of council regarding the ordinance requirement that currently reads that there be 2 access points, roadway access points into a PRD, a planned residential development. Under all PRD provisions, I mean, the zoning ordinance does allow that for PRDs, the standards can be modified or waived by the governing body, in this case, Borough Council. So I think they would like to discuss it. I know they're here tonight, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, I don't know if you want to have them just approach and discuss.
Sure.
Where's the best place to put this, the board and the easel? This side?
Close to the podium,
right
so
here?
you could hear you, please. Okay. Or get recorded.
Good evening. My name is Ed Moore, and I'm with Scheffler & Company, and also with me tonight is Dion McMullen. Just a real quick overview of the plan. We're not really here to discuss the inner workings of the plan. We're here tonight to discuss the access into the plan specifically. The site itself, the Froman property, is approximately 70 acres. The current plan that we're working on has 114 single-family units and 37 acres of open space. Again, the internal of the plan isn't set yet. We're still working on that. The hurdle that we would like to discuss tonight is the 2 access points into the site. As part of a PRD, in your ordinance, we're required 2 points of access. Our original plan had 2 points of access. We had Wooster and Associates actually go out into the property, on the site, It is a state road, so they did some site distance evaluations for us. Their evaluations came back that PennDOT would only approve one access point. I have a couple of real crude exhibits here, and I apologize I didn't bring a whole lot of copies, so.
What was their rationale for that?
It's all site distance requirements.
Oh, okay.
I'll explain this real quick. So what you're looking at here is just a real brief understanding of what was going on. The plan that's on this picture was our original plan. As you can see, there was 2 access points onto Walrose Heights Road. When Gateway went out, they studied the speed of the road, they studied the vertical curves, the site distances, things like that. Their evaluation came back that the green circle, which was our original access point, was acceptable, but it had to be moved to where the green line is per se. So our entrance into the site, which is shown here, it was here, but it has to move here for site distance purposes. The blue, which came out on this bend, right here, we don't have the site distance to have an access point there. PennDOT will not approve a curb cut at that point. The only way we could get a curb cut at this point would be to purchase the property across the street, to grade most of this corner off so you could see around that bend. We don't own the property, so that's out of the question for us at this point. So again, the access point that we're proposing for the project would be located here, which is that green line on your exhibit, and we would have to clear and grub the area at the access on either side in order to get the proper site distance. So we're here tonight to, again, not talk about the inner workings of the plan. We'll be back at a later date to do that. But we're here tonight to talk about and get your feedback on a single access point, which again, your ordinance requires 2. In this case, there is only really 1 point of access into this property. We're asking it now because we don't want to go down the road and spend $50,000, $60,000 in engineering fees and come in front of the board and you say, no way, it's not going to happen. So we'd like to get your feedback at this point, if we could, on that issue.
I have a quick question for you. So the entrance would have to move to where the green line is written on this.
Correct.
That's where that dirt driveway is currently, right where the fire hydrant is.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Is that?
The dirt fire hydrant is short of that bend.
But yeah, right,
Yeah, I would say
right
that
there.
that dirt access is about right here.
Okay.
One more clarification. We met with Scott. The main reason why we're here also is that your ordinance reads that we have to take the engineering to a very significant point in order to come in front of you through the planning commission. The question is, can we present this modification to the PRD without getting to that point? We met with Scott. He clearly explained to us to read the ordinance, which we did, and it basically says, okay, we gotta do geotech, we gotta do sewer layouts, storm layouts. It's a simple thing, it's a simple or not simple thing we're asking for. It's just the way the ordinance is written, we would probably not follow through with this because we'd have to do almost a complete engineering plan in order to go for a modification. What we're asking is, can we get this modification in a shorter way before we start all that engineering? That's the question in front of the board.
But your plan is always going to be to only have 1 entrance.
It's not our plan, it's the requirement of PennDOT that that's all we can get based on the site distance. PennDOT didn't say that yet, but Wooster and Associates, who's
Said you're not gonna get
said
it.
we're not gonna get it.
And I think we had enough residents here that first time who did tell us how bad this bend was.
Very much so.
Based on the
Right, so-
sensitivity of that entrance is another reason why that meeting is another reason why we're here.
I'm sorry, refresh my memory, how many homes are gonna be back there again?
114 is our current plan. That won't vary more than 6 up or 6 down.
Okay.
What's the maximum capacity?
Excuse me?
What's the maximum capacity?
Like 178,
It's
but
such
the
a-
wetlands dictate something else.
Yeah, I think by ordinance, if I'm reading it correctly, the density on this piece of property is upwards around 270 potential units. But there's a balance. We need to get the required open space too. So you might not be able to get 276 and the open space. So you have to make sure, and we're well above the required open space for this project as well, so.
So if there was a catastrophe blocking the entrance there, how would those people get out?
We had asked Wooster, Yeah, we asked Wooster, again, who's our traffic consultant, to take a look at that. There is a possibility that, again, we need to study this a little bit more, of emergency access that we're kicking around. Unfortunately, the emergency access in PennDOT's point of view is looked at the same as a regular driveway, curb cut. It's, even though it may never be used, it's looked upon from PennDOT as the same thing as a regular curb cut. So there is a possibility that we may have a stretch of the road as we come down here further on the property to get emergency access at this point, in case, yeah, this is blocked, people can still get out here. But we, you know, I caution that we still have to look at site distance and the distance from driveways and all that as well.
But is it usually entrances and ingress and egress is on one side of the development and the other side, not two this way?
A lot of times, yeah, yeah.
Even if you had two this way, it would still be, I think, detrimental to the health or safety of the people if something happened.
Well, the thought is that if this intersection is blocked, you could still get out at this point. Everybody could still come this way to get out.
Because that's almost how Liberty Hills is. Their entrances are very close together. One comes out on Barbara, one comes out on Conway Walrose.
Right, but they're opposite. They're not the same way.
Right, yeah.
That's the point.
But they actually access some of the same roads. But we have a situation in the borough now where we only have one way in and one way out, and there's an emergency exit if there's an emergency, and that's Walmart. So actually last night, somebody sheared off a telephone pole at the very bottom of Economy Way, and we thought for a while there that that road was gonna be closed, and we were gonna be calling the firemen to come and unlock the emergency exit, because the emergency exit is locked right now. So we didn't know if they had a way to evacuate, to get people out of Walmart. So we currently have this situation now. It's not 140 or 114 homes, but this exists right now in the borough. I think everybody knows I'd always advocate on behalf of the large landowners, the farm owners, but in this case, a catastrophe with one entrance is scary to me.
Has your consultants considered that second exit to be maybe strictly a left turn only or exit only, whether it's a left or a right, so you're not competing with that cut back on the corner?
We didn't discuss any of those kind of turning movement restrictions now.
I mean, that would be a possibility. I see you have the road built in already, right?
On that drawing.
That's the old one.
That's the old drawing, yeah. This is the newer one which removes that connection point.
What's the probability you find that property across the street? Is it low, high? Have you discussed it with those people or not?
We have no idea what a private homeowner's doing there, and whether they'd be willing to sell.
But it would still be two roads in the front. It would still.
Right, but if
you
they
can't
go
go
across the
that.
street and cut
Right.
that out,
Yeah.
they'll have the site picture.
Yeah, the two roads in the front are the only road, the road we have in the front is the only road we have.
That's
There
what I'm
is no
saying, for
answer to
Liberty
that
Hills
other
is the
question.
same, because there's all those people on the New Swickley side of Liberty Hills, they can't go over the hill. They all have to come towards that very front semicircular road.
You have the Ridgewood plan too, only has one entrance in and out.
Oh, I
There's
never
100
thought
some
of that.
homes in there.
And that's how,
Back before it orders.
Yeah.
The circle, yeah, the one that PennDOT did not approve.
The blue one, correct.
No, the green
The
one.
green one.
The green one, that's
They did not approve that.
correct. We would have to move it to
Can't-
where the line is, yes.
But is that road still going to be there? To get
No,
back to
no,
those
no.
houses?
It's kind of a hybrid. This is the old original plan.
I understand.
And this is the newer plan. There's only one, closer here. There's only this road here. And you can see we've moved that to where this.
Okay, so that whole road's.
So that whole road's gone.
I was gonna say if you could even put a gate just for emergency.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about if it was emergency access, does it make it any better if it's grass pavers and it's not as noticeable and usable and it's only in the case of an emergency? But unfortunately, that kicks back to the PennDOT's requirements of like a regular driveway. So, you know, we'll take a look at can we provide emergency access maybe further down here. We'll ask our consultant that. But again, this is the only road that's accessible for this whole.
No, I understand that, and I understand that you still going to have those two access points.
No,
No, the green,
just the green.
no, the blue one if they get Well, they need to have.
Yeah, the blue ones.
Blue one's
The only
not,
way for them to have two
blue one's not
access
even there.
points is to either acquire more land or to somehow be able to have two very close to each other, is what he's saying.
Yeah, but the ordinance says they need to have two.
Blue one's on a sharp bend, you can't, they're saying that they can't do that.
Could you,
Right, so they're
I
asking
understand
us.
it's on a sharp bend, and that's.
But that's the one that PennDOT said that they can't, they won't approve.
Unless they,
But they have, unless they buy the property.
can you buy the corner?
Right, if they buy the property across the street.
Property's not
I said, I would have.
It's not necessarily for sale.
could you check on the restrictive movement that Mr. Aspar talked about?
We can check on it, sure, yeah.
And also, Mr. Chu, do you know of any other plans in the borough that have this many units with one way in, one way out?
Sunset Hills and Ridgewood.
Woodridge.
Ridgewood comes to mind.
Yeah.
Ridgewood and Sunset Hills.
Sunset Hills.
Sunset Hills kind of.
Sunset Hills has two, according to Mr.
They got out the backside of it, over towards the school.
So just
The
Ridgewood.
point is that they're asking us to amend the ordinance and allow them to have one road. We can't amend an ordinance to provide them for something that's already in existence. Is that correct, Mr. Aspar?
Yeah, we would have to do we would have to do some sort of amendment to it.
Well, no, isn't that the same thing where we can't amend our ordinance for Penn Energy? Because they've already have the plans and.
It would be the same process that we would have to go through. But that's what they're asking, you know, would we vote to amend that ordinance to allow this particular project to have only one way in and one way out? And if, you know, if council's amenable to doing something like that, again, we're gonna have to advertise it, we're gonna have to have a public hearing on it, we're gonna have to provide notice to the local planning commission.
So we can give our opinion now, though, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say
It's more like a poll vote, Ms. Kaminsky.
I say we have an ordinance in place, and I say we follow the ordinance.
I agree with that. We're going to tell the next person that wants to do this. Plus, it's simply just not safe. Especially with the gas fracking now and stuff, if something really blew up or whatever, no, I'm not willing to take that.
Well, I was bringing up about the second road, and not as a PennDOT requirement, but as our requirement saying, here's an emergency exit, it's just not PennDOT approved. But
It
you
doesn't
still-
talk about an emergency exit. It
But
talks
I
about
understand that, I'm saying,
particular type.
if they could put one in, with a gate where it can't be.
And if something happens at that emergency
If some-
exit, during that time, we could be a lot liable.
We cannot have an emergency exit unless PennDOT approves.
Correct.
And not only that, our ordinance doesn't permit it. Our ordinance calls for an arterial or collector street, not an emergency.
No,
path.
How does Walmart work?
Yeah.
'Cause that's, how does Walmart work, because that's a slag.
That was before me, so I don't know.
But they do have.
They have, it's an
The emergency exit
arterial
going
road.
out to Sproat,
Right.
Yeah, it's an arterial road.
but it has two actual exits from the location.
Right.
One is an emergency situation, which is not utilized,
Right.
but it's there. So we'd be asking them to not provide that, or to stick with what the ordinance is, and come back with two, or don't come back, is what basically it comes down to. And that's not trying to be too frank with you, I'm just explaining.
Believe me.
I'm not trying to be mean, by any means.
No, that's what
But
they-
that's what it's gonna come down to, either come back with two, you know, and that's all there is to it. Or we're gonna choose to put this to a vote to put it out and get it a vote for it and get other you know.
I believe what we'd be looking for is not necessarily a variance, but it's a modification or a waiver from the PRD requirement. It might be a play on words or semantics, but generally from our, a variance is less of a process than a waiver or a modification, but.
And there is a twofold question here that I explained before. Not only would we knew we'd have to go through the process of planning, commission, public hearing and all, the ability to do that without going to a full-blown engineer package.
Right.
That's really why we were here.
Right.
One, to get a read on, is that something we can talk about? And two, can we run that up the flagpole and through the public hearing without putting a whole package together as your ordinance requires us to do to get that far?
I think from the gist of everybody and everyone can speak up, I don't want to speak for everybody. My personal opinion is you need to try harder to have some sort of second entrance and exit out of there.
Okay.
Everyone else can
I agree.
chime in, but that's
I
the
agree.
feeling I get, and that's
Yeah.
my feeling as well.
Yeah, wow, it's, what advantage to us to take that liability on, you know? So I would vote no.
Okay. We know what we have to do
Yeah.
or not to.
Thanks for your time here.
Yeah,
Thank you guys, appreciate the time. You have something to consider next time, council.
I actually have one small issue on new business.
Wait, excuse me, before you get to new business, can I set up as an old business? What's actually new business? It has to do with the residents that came here. They offered their services and, you know, I had the time to think of it now as the time has gone on. And I would like to know what council feels about taking them up on what they want us to do. If they want to help us, I think we should accept that. If they're willing to get, you know, the binders and the Act 14 letters and everything organized for us, I'm in favor of that. Anybody else?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I mean, if you can get these people to come in here and sit down, they've done the research already, it's gonna help your committee take some shortcuts on some of the things that other people have done, rather than you trying to go out and
Well, and
come up with it yourself.
And to help Randy too, the officer, that, I'm in favor
We'll
of
get
that.
a
if they're still
secretary
willing.
in. I don't know how I feel about citizens sort of rifling through files.
No, they wouldn't be
They're not rifling through any files.
No,
They're
Randy would
they're
present
just
the
bringing the
information.
information on the ordinance that they're talking about.
Jake, when somebody applies for a permit, do you start a file for it? Do you start a binder after a while?
Binder, everything, every permit is in a separate folder.
Okay.
Well, we don't have all the information.
Okay.
They're talking about the Act 14 letters.
Okay, and when the Act 14 letters, that, I don't want to say that you replied to, because I know you do Act 14 letters in your own business, but the Act 14 letters that you replied to on behalf of the borough, as the borough engineer, do you keep those somewhere separately? Do you?
I mean, I am oil and gas, economy and gas reporter, I keep it.
Okay.
But I mean, I said, copies went to Borough.
To us, right. So maybe once we get a secretary in place, I just think it's better to have borough personnel handle borough business.
Well,
Well,
I don't think it's so much
Well, I think we need some parameters before we just make a motion for it. So why don't we come back the next meeting and think of what that is? And, you know,
Well, I think they're entitled to everything that they're asking that they want us to do.
They make a request.
That's correct, Mr. Parker. It would have to be all done through a right to know, which has a cost and so on and so forth. But, you know, if you're gonna have people volunteering their time for the borough's order of business, I mean, Brian's right, you should have some parameters to make sure that it's being done strictly voluntarily, on their time, no compensation, no liability on our part. And, you know, if they're gonna be requesting documents from Mr. Shoup or Mr. Kunkel or whoever it may be, you know, are they using that strictly for borough purposes only, or are they gonna be making copies for themselves? Because if so, then that's subject to the right to know and so on.
I'm not disagreeing with having volunteers help us by any means. I'm not willing to make that a vote yet. I would rather look into this a little further and come back with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not against it by any means. I just want to make sure we say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, help is always appreciated. No questions asked. I mean, I want to help.
Is the office still there, ladies?
Yeah, Mr. President, can I just clarify one thing that might help you in determining that? Part of what we've talked about with the citizen team is not that we would be looking at files. We would basically ask that everybody who has a document pertaining to a specific project make it available to Mr. Kunkel. Then we would volunteer to make photocopies, punch them, and put those into binders. So it's basically, we wouldn't be pulling files, we wouldn't be looking at anything that was proprietary. We're basically trying to help him to fulfill, just, you know, try to put everything, and I have to say, you know, the files that you keep on other things are very different. The oil and gas files that you will experience are going to be voluminous. They're going to be huge. And so in order to help keep up with that, if there was just a system in place where whatever it was pulled by staff, set aside, and the ladies or gentlemen would come in and basically we'd be instructed, photocopy these go into binders or whatever, these go into file boxes or whatever, because it's right now it's a minimal amount. It's, as time goes on, it becomes very voluminous, so it's just to help. Yeah.
Could you send us an email for what you think this is?
Yeah, sure.
And then we can all talk about it and then see if we want to take action at the next meeting.
Right, because I think one of the parameters needs to be that if we would allow a volunteer to touch borough documents, that it would have to be a borough resident.
Well, you know, I'm just running this through my head, and it's something the council needs to consider, but, you know, in no disrespect, but, you know, what if Penn Energy came to this council and offered the same service free of charge? Would you guys do the same thing?
Sure. If they want to organize their documentation, yeah.
Okay. Because that's what we gotta keep in mind, because we can't, again, we can't look like we're exclusionary, we have to be fair about it.
They get paid to do the job.
I think we're all.
It's not something we're trying to hide.
Wait, I think we're all receptive to the idea, so you could send us an email for what you think that this should be, we can all look at it and put our ideas in place, and then we can see if it's an actionable thing at the next meeting.
That sounds great.
Right.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kunkel, could you put this on the agenda for the next meeting, so that so we know it's there and we have to talk about it? You're one.
And one real quick thing too, I think we need to discuss, because we can't discuss this in executive session, it has to be out in public, and we're all here now, who's going to be tasked to answer these questions?
Which question?
The residents that presented.
I didn't look through it, I just received it today.
So that's something we may want to think about, who would be qualified to answer the questions that they raised. And I can't.
I didn't have a chance, it was sent an email like this afternoon.
Yeah,
I came right from
I know.
work and came really had time to dress and come here. Why don't we look at the questions? Maybe Penn Energy is the party to answer the majority of them. Mr. Bowers, while you're here, if we set you the list of questions, do we have answers by the next meeting?
I haven't seen the question, so it's
if there
as many as you can.
Yeah, I went through this process before. There was a list of similar questions, if I remember. Ms. Bicenter's list of questions before. They were very similar to the ones that were presented, and we answered them in writing.
I think some of these.
Happy to go through that process again, but I think a lot of them are largely addressed already.
I think a lot of them too would be what Randy would maybe have.
Most of these are what Randy's gonna have the information.
Okay, well, we'll.
Again, it's gonna be, I mean, it's just adding more work to him, but hopefully we'll have a secretary by then.
In conjunction with Mr. Bowers and Mr. Kunkel, we'll get the questions answered.
I just want to get that clear.
I don't want to say who's going to answer it, I don't have it in front of me, so.
Well, I think in the code enforcement officer could answer some of these questions as well.
All right, we'll throw Mr. Thomas in there too.
Right, I'm just throwing you under the bus too, Mr. Thomas. Just going right under there.
Can I get to my new business now?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I was looking at the calendars, and to give proper notice to everybody, it appears that we have a council meeting the same day as a presidential primary in April. So we cannot have a meeting in here or here while there's, because this is a polling place, the room is different. So maybe we don't vote on it tonight, but if everyone can confirm that date and the conflict, we vote sooner rather than later to cancel that meeting so everybody knows and it's not posted on Facebook the day of.
What day is that, the 14th?
April 28th.
April 28th.
Yeah.
You need a motion then? I'll motion to cancel that meeting then.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Randy, do you post that on the front board or on the internet, or how do you post a cancellation of the meeting?
The law requires it to be posted on the front door, and I can also have it on the internet since I have.
Carrier pigeon label.
A little post-it notes.
All right, so with that, we have 4 executive session issues, 2 public works personnel issues, 1 police personnel issue, and the borough secretary hiring. So could I have a motion to go into executive session?
I got some old business I wanted to bring up, like any new information on the police cameras?
Yes. So, New Swickley just bought 16 police cameras, I believe. Yeah, it was $24,000. He's gonna get the chief a final price on how much their cloud servicing went up, but he thinks it's gonna be over $2,000 a month just for the cloud storage.
Easily.
Yeah. Just because once you're off of there's cameras, if they have, we have a couple places in the borough right now that when our officers are down there, and maybe you have the same issue, Jeff, I don't know, down on Big Swickley Creek, sort of,
Can't hear.
right, there's it's like radio silence.
Right.
So usually those cameras, if the police officer is out of the car, it's running and it's trying to download at the same time. So we may have some connectivity issues.
We're gonna have them throughout this borough.
Yeah, because just of the terrain.
Do we have cameras in the cars?
We do have a couple I'd rather not talk about the tactical things we have, but yes, we do.
Okay. Another question I have is flooring in this building. Did we get any?
We're working on that. Randy, what's it, you got a price on the carpet in the office, and this whole floor? And we're gonna do the big.
We added the tax office, they just have not given me that number yet.
You did the tax office also?
We're getting on one price.
Okay, good.
We're not doing carpet in here.
No,
No,
top.
In the
Okay.
office.
That's all I have under old business. New business, I have a couple items. One is, I got a couple residents that called me on I guess evidently the clock down at the Borough Garage is 15 minutes early, or doesn't work properly, or whatever it is, and evidently guys are people are home before 3 o'clock. And I don't know the whole scenario, but it leaves us open to a liability where if the clock is broke, or if it's 15 minutes early and you're punching out at 3 o'clock and you're home at 2:45, and if you have an accident between A and B, something's gonna happen. So I'm trying to make a motion here that we fix the clock, or buy new clocks, and down there, so that's resolved.
Did we just buy a new clock? Around here? I thought we did.
No, I don't think there's a new one down there.
No, I think we talked about, no, that was for the office.
Yeah, it's for the office here.
Yeah.
Well, let's fix it then.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
So the motion should be, attempt to fix them if they're not able to be fixed, to purchase new ones?
Yes.
Who's making that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Well, what did we make a motion for?
To fix the clocks.
How many?
One.
Was it a time clock?
Yeah, it's a time clock.
Why don't we just buy a new one and be done with it?
So what's,
Instead of wasting time fixing junk.
I'm not saying fix it, but what's the cost on it, and do we wanna get the same what type of clock is it? A time card clock?
Yeah, it's a card.
What did we pay for that one we got up here? 100, 200, what did we
Yeah,
pay?
a couple $100.
And the reason I'm saying this, Mr. Brown, is we're having with the other issue with the payrolls. So it's possible that
Oh, that's a
maybe
different.
we don't wanna get that same type of clock.
Right, that's why we should just get a new one, but that's.
Well, I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, I think it's just,
What kind
that's a
did we get
different
for the
situation.
office, Randy?
Ours doesn't work very well.
Make a number.
I would not
Is that the
recommend
thumbprint one?
That's where I'm going with
Yes,
that.
I would not recommend.
So if we get the proper time clusters, we can question. Then I think we
Why?
should do that.
It's wise to keep
So
the
that's what I'm
time.
saying.
Why doesn't it work well?
Does it need replaced, or does it just need
It
reset?
doesn't recognize.
That's what you want to do.
Isn't that what it's for?
No, I'm not.
And there
You're-
is,
Right now, you're just making a motion to have it, you're gonna have to get prices anyway. You know what I mean? So you're just making a motion to get prices, basically.
Yeah, but typically there's a dollar value in the motion. I mean, we can, the chair of the Public Works Committee can, or Randy can get prices on clocks between now and next meeting.
I just feel that might be,
Just make it
interconnected with the other, so the other time issues.
I mean, we don't need a motion to solicit bids for something, or to solicit prices.
Yeah.
No.
We need a motion to spend money, but am I correct?
Can we just make a motion not to exceed like 250?
We don't know what's the matter with it.
No, we don't, we might be just being prepared.
Yeah.
It might be,
It's probably older than that.
it's just like being prepared.
I think, myself included, but this last bit of the council meeting is a good example of that new law that might come to pass, where everything that we're gonna take action on has to be on the agenda before the meeting. So, when we get these agendas from Randy, if there's stuff that we wanna add that's gonna be discussed, let's try to start putting them on the agenda ahead of time. For one, we all know what we're gonna talk about, and two, if we're gonna take action on it, if that law passes the Senate, we won't be allowed to take action on it if it's not on the agenda and made available to the public 24 hours in advance.
So who do you want to contact for that information?
Randy.
Just call Randy, that's what, he doesn't have the right to just stick it on, it has to come through you.
Well, Randy.
I've been putting it on at the request of anybody on council.
Is there a time frame you need it by? Noon Friday?
Preferably before 4 on Thursday.
4 on Thursday?
Stuff on, yeah.
I just want us to be prepared if this law passes, we don't get caught.
Right.
Because it's probably,
Well, I asked that question myself.
It seems like it's gonna
I even
pass.
brought that up myself because of the fact, but when you have old business and new business,
Yep.
you know, what are you gonna do, talk about old business? Old business should be talked about regardless. We talked about it now, it should be on it for next, it should be a list of everything that we're talking about right now because we brought it up, you know?
Well, but when we get the agenda, part of our responsibility is look at the agenda. That's why Randy sent it Thursday. If we get the agenda, there's something on there that should be on there, we need to put it on there.
Okay.
So what happens in a case like tonight?
Well,
Is that old or new or?
We didn't take action on it, but in the future, we wouldn't be allowed to take action on it if that law
Right, I
passes.
understand what
We
you're
won't be
talking
allowed to take
Right,
action.
and that's what I was asking the same question before.
So, if there's something that's not, if not, then Mr. Conklin doesn't have to send us the agenda early because.
So
You know,
even
you
with
just
the old business, we have to put it on.
Yeah, well, if there's something like the police cameras, that was good, it probably should have been on.
Keep reminding us,
Yeah.
we're so used to.
Yeah, no,
just
I
doing
will,
it.
because I don't want us to get caught
Yeah,
on
yeah, I
something
agree with you.
simple and then we get into.
We're so used to like.
Yeah,
doing
The last thing I have
something.
on new business is something for us to think about. Springtime's coming. And I know I've talked to road crew people before, and they always wanted a bucket truck. Because that could be useful throughout the borough. Right now, the guys, they're in a high lift trying to put signs up or do whatever. You need a bucket truck. And I'm thinking, get rid of that. You guys have a paver that we really don't use, and we're not pavers. You know, we hire companies to pave. Sell the paver, take that money, dump it into a bucket truck. But that's just an idea I'm throwing out there because I know these guys complain and, you know, they need the bucket truck could really be useful to them. And we don't pave enough roads that I can see that we need to pave, nor do we have the expertise to really be paving anyway.
So we'll let the Public Works Committee work with Mr. Brickner and see if that's
Feasible.
something that's good.
All right, that's all I have.
All right, so with that, again, I'll go through executive session again. There's 2 Public Works personnel issues, the borough secretary, and the mayor has a police personnel issue to discuss. All with possible votes?
Yes.
All with possible votes, all right. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make it a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?